Welcome back, guys. We have made it through the hiatus once again, fellas and ladies. We have made it through the hiatus, and the Intersect podcast is back. Back for Chuck versus Tom Sawyer. And if you don't know what Tom Sawyer is, I feel bad for you because it's a fantastic song, and you should go listen to it right now. Not right now, actually. Finish listening to this podcast, then go listen to it. But anyway, once again, I'd like to thank you guys for sticking around and believing in the vision I have here for the Intersect Project podcast, listening along, enjoying it. We're almost at 700 downloads at this point, so we're getting closer to that 1,000 mark. Can't wait for that 1,000 mark. It's going to be fun. I don't know what I'm going to do yet for it, but I'm going to try to do something. So, once again, like I said, I'd like to thank you guys for listening and sticking around. Thanks to all those people out there who have helped promote the podcast. Chuckaholics.com. By Morian Prince on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Him or her. Go give him or her a follow. And he's been pretty loyal fan since the beginning. So shout out to that. Shout out to all my new Twitter followers. If you're just now listening to this, you can follow me on Twitter at ChuckRewatch33, capital C and Chuck. I post updates like when I'm gonna be doing the podcast. I pose questions for the fans, and just generally interact with Chuck fans because they're some of the best people to interact with. So there's that. So let's just dive right into this episode. Chuck versus Tom Sawyer. Now, this is a good episode for a filler episode. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and it partially has to do with my propensity to love Rush, because I really love Rush. They're a good band, and they have a lot of good songs. So, for all you seasoned listeners of the podcast, you know that the first two segments I'd like to start off with are Song of the Episode and Hit of the Episode. For you new people, you'll learn it pretty quick. So here we go. Let's do Song of the Episode first. Now, there was only a couple of choices here. There was not a lot of original music per se in this, so I had to go with my gut feeling. And pick the song that the whole episode was based off on, pretty much. So I had to choose not Chuck. Of course, I always pick Chuck, but I decided to go with Tom Sawyer by Rush, and that's just what I'm gonna go with. I'm going with Rush. Rush's Tom Sawyer. There were some other good songs there, and I couldn't pick them over Tom Sawyer. I love that song so much. So congratulations, Rush, you Canadian devils, you. If you're somehow listening to this podcast, I don't know how you would, but it's not impossible. So if somebody from Rush is listening to this podcast right now, congratulations, you have won Song of the Episode for Chuck versus Tom Sawyer. With your song, Tom Sawyer. Now, for hit of the episode, we literally had one candidate for hit of the episode. So we all know who's winning this one. Once again, we had another episode where we waited till the very end for some bad guy punching, and only one of the good guys is punching bad guys, and that's Sarah Walker. So, once again, congratulations, Yvonne Strahovski playing Sarah Walker. You have won Chuck vs. Tom Sawyer's hit of the episode, because you took down 4 bad guys by yourself, and you did it in a badass way. And I'm just going to give you hit of the episode for all of them, because you took them all down with some pretty vicious hits. So, like I said, congratulations, Yvonne. your character Sarah Walker just won hit of the episode for Chuck versus Tom Sawyer. Now, if you're keeping score at home, you know what the hit of the episode score is right now for season 2. But if you don't, I'll remind you. For season 2 so far, we have Sarah Walker with 4 hits of the episode, hit of the episode scores, wins, and Chuck with 1 hit of the episode win. So at this point, it appears Sarah Walker is running away with the prize. But there's a lot of episodes left in season 2. We'll find out soon enough who will be season 2's hit of the episode winner. Well, there you have it, folks. The 2 segments, the 2 song of the episodes and hit of the episodes. Done. Out of the way. Done. Now we'll dive into the episode at hand. So for this episode, the buy more topic is the buy more is directly in line with Team Bartowski. The mission pretty much takes on through the buy more because it involves Jeff and the missile command game at the buy more at the end to help save the day. So there's really only 3 major topics I want to cover today in today's episode, and that is Chara, Chuck's future, and Team Bartowski and the buy more. So I'm going to do Team Bartowski and the buy more first. Then I'm going to go to Chuck's future, and then last but not least, everybody's favorite talking point from Chuck. That's Chara, Chuck and Sarah. Everybody's favorite talking point, for sure. So we begin with Team Bartowski and the buy more. Now, this episode starts out weird. Jeff has his arms around attractive women, and I know what you're all thinking. Did he kidnap them? I thought it too, okay? I thought it too. But sometimes you just gotta give Jeff some credit. Evidently, back in the 80s, beautiful women were really into guys who were really good at video games. I know, it seems weird, but that's what we have in this situation. Jeff has got his arms around attractive women because he is the Missile Command champion. Best ever in Missile Command, which is a game from Atari. So, obviously, we decided to start out this episode weird. Yeah, with Jeff. And that mullet, man. That mullet. Ugh. That is a Joe Dirt looking mullet right there. But anyway, bam, we go back to the buy more. We see the new guy's coming in, and his name is Emmett, and played by the wonderful Tony Hale, who is just absolutely hysterical in most things. You probably saw him in Arrested Development. He was really good in that. But Emmett is coming in from corporate, try and straighten these morons out, trying to cut down on the shenanigans so they have a running business. And he wants to talk to every single one of them, except one person's not there, and that's Chuck, because he has overslept his alarm after going on a mission last night, which I can only suspect was a fantastic one because his name was Francois and he had a terrible fake mustache on. So you get to see a glimpse into what Chuck is doing when he's not on the TV, or I guess when they're not showing what he's doing. He's doing missions a lot. I mean, look at his shoebox. Look at all those passports that he has in there. That's a lot of passports. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? Anyway, so Chuck finally makes it to work, but he flashes on a guy as Emmett's talking to him about what he does and what he brings to the buy more at the NerfHerder desk, asking why he's late and whatnot. And Chuck flashes on a bad guy, and he sees Casey right behind the bad guy, so he's trying to get Casey to see the bad guy. So he sneaks around, but he accidentally runs into said bad guy, and we find out the bad guy is looking for Jeff, of all people. Jeff. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, he's got him confused. I mean, he's got a picture of Jeff, but he's probably confused as to why he needs Jeff. But nevertheless, he's looking for Jeff. So Chuck gives him some stupid excuse like he doesn't work at this buy more. He works at any of the 13 buy mores in the Southern California area. There's a lot of buy mores in the Southern California area. But anyway, Chuck goes and talks to Sarah and Casey about it, and they're like, hey, well, you've got two choices. You can either let Jeff be tortured for why the bad guy needs to see him, or you can hang out with him and learn about his past. Chuck didn't want him to be tortured, but I'm sure he thought about it for at least a couple of seconds. And to be honest, hanging out with Jeff might be Chuck's hardest mission to date. Like, legit. Not a joke. It might be his hardest mission to date. He does not seem like he wants to do this. And none of us really blame him, because Jeff is a weird guy. So, but Chuck's a nice guy, and he doesn't want Jeff to be tortured, so he hangs out with him. Well, Jeff's version of hanging out is getting super drunk and being really awkward. And by really awkward, I mean watching a weird music montage of Anna, and in weird pictures. So, I mean, I guess that's Jeff's muse. So, what are you gonna do? But anyway, Chuck finds out why Jeff is being attracted by this bad guy, and it's because his missile command record, or his missile command championship, and we find out that there is missiles in the game. So, there you have it. There's missiles in Missile Command. Missile Command actually controls real missiles. It's weird, huh? Anyway, Morgan. So Chuck cleans Jeff up and takes him back to his apartment, where he stays there for the night, and then he goes back home, and they go back to the buy more. And as you can see, Morgan back at the buy more, Morgan and Lester are really upset. They seem really upset and jealous because Chuck seems to be forming this new relationship with Jeff. They feel like they're losing their best friends. So, obviously they're really super jealous. But, like I said, they find out the game designer actually controls missiles by Missile Command. So they decide, well, we got to break into Atari. And they do this because Chuck sends a computer virus to the Atari network to shut them down, and he calls it the Bartowski Special. Turns out the Bartowski Special ain't that special because they don't need him to fix it. But that's probably because he's just a dude and they think they're smarter than him. And Atari has more freaking PhD than Microsoft. He sounded really Beavis and Buttheady Beavis and Buttheady doesn't seem like the right conjugation, but I'm going to go with it. He sounds really Beavis and Buttheady when he says that, which I always found really funny. So they send in Sarah as the hot NerfHerder to distract so they could go upstairs. Well, they get upstairs, and who's inside? Baruch. And what does he do? Locks Chuck inside with Morimoto. Casey comes in. They find out that the Missile Command game that Morimoto is being forced to play, so he could give Farouk the codes, was going to explode. It's a bomb. It's a dangerous bomb. So that thing blows up, almost killing Casey and Chuck in the process while killing Morimoto. And it's really close. Put it this way, I've never seen elevator doors close that fast. So keep that in mind. So now Farouk is going to launch missiles and start World War III. But don't worry, the CIA has a plan. They're going to shoot down the satellite, and it's going to crash to Earth, and there's only going to be minimal civilian casualties. But Chuck ain't having none of that. No one should have civilian casualties. And I agree with him. I mean, if there's a way to do something without civilian casualties, you should probably do that. So, do that. So Chuck comes up with the idea. Hey, we're going to have Jeff beat Missile Command so we can get to the kill screen. Get that code. Jeff ain't having none of that, though. He is not coming out of retirement. He does not want to come out of retirement. Too bad, Jeff. You got to come out of retirement. Chuck, once again, thinks quick on his feet, like usual. Convinces Jeff to come out of retirement. And that's when it happens. The montage to set up the buy more for the Missile Command. And I'm just going to say this. If you want to learn something really fast, you don't have a lot of time. Montage it. Fact, montages work. You'll learn everything you need to do. Just montage it. And that's what they do. They set up the buy more on a montage with an 80s music backdrop. And they get it done. They set up the stage. They got Anna in that hula skirt because Jeff is weird. And they got the M&Ms, no brownies. They got all of Jeff's fans and stuff back. And they got the Missile Command front and center. And he goes up. And he faints immediately because Jeff is nervous, I guess. Maybe he's not drunk enough. Who knows with that guy? But he is not. He can't do it. So Chuck has to do it. Chuck has to beat Missile Command. And the only way to do that is to play while listening to the music of the universe. Rush. Specifically Tom Sawyer. And I'm just gonna say I agree. Rush is the music of the universe. If you were to go into space, I know you can't hear anything in space, but if space could talk, it would be Rush lyrics. And that's fact. Just hashtag fact. Hashtag fact. So Chuck asks Morgan if he has any Rush, and he says, "Yeah, I got it on my Zune." He's like, "You got a Zune?" "No, man, no. I'll get my iPod though." And I always really appreciate that. In a very dark moment, a moment where the world is facing World War III, what does Morgan do? What do the writers of this show do? They make a Zune joke. Oh man, I like Zune jokes. That one was perfect timing. It's just the perfect setting for a Zune joke, and it was hilarious. So Chuck's playing the game, listening to Tom Sawyer. Everybody's feeling it. They're all excited. Casey's back at Castle, ready to launch the missile. Sarah's at the TV station, beating up bad guys. She's got control again. Now she's just waiting on the code. And guess what? Chuck beat the game. Chuck beat the game. Chuck beat the game. Chuck beat the game. And he got the kill screen. Beat the kill screen, and he got the code. And he sent it to Sarah. And they won. The good guys win again. So shortly after that, Big Mike's talking to all the Buy More employees, and he congratulated Chuck, and he's talking about how since they don't know how to act and behave, he's got a new assistant manager, Emmett. Emmett is the new ass man at the Buy More. So we're setting in for some. You thought Lester was a bad ass man, yeah. Emmett man. Well, then Chuck sees Jeff out in the loading bay, and he has a small heart-to-heart with him. A small one, very small one. And Chuck tries to cheer him up the best he can. And towards the end of this episode, we really get this feeling like, okay, so the Buy More is full of complete morons. They're all just absolutely dumb. But they care. They do all these shenanigans, but they care for each other like a lot. The the camaraderie inside the Buy More is bar none. Like, you will never, you would be hard pressed to find a working environment where employees cared so much about each other. Like, they would do anything for each other, and we see that on several occasions. And we see who their leader is. It is Chuck. At first, he's basically the leader of the Buy More. Everybody does what he says, basically. Everybody asks for his input, and everybody makes sure they do things through Chuck. And that's what we're seeing. We see a couple things with that. First thing we see is that Chuck is obviously a leader type. He doesn't act like it. It doesn't seem to be his type of role, but he is a leader, without a doubt. He is a leader, and he's not a follower, for a fact. And the second thing we see is like the loyalty that you see between the Buy More employees is something you will never see anywhere else. That's loyalty that comes with trust, and you can't beat it. So I just wanted to throw that in about the Buy More. And folks, we've covered Team Bartowski and the Buy More. The bad guy going to jail. World War III averted. No civilian casualties, except maybe Jeff's head. And we did it. He did it. Chuck did it. He saved the day. So let's move on to the next topic at hand, Chuck's future. Now, at the beginning of the episode, when Chuck was late for work, he is talking to Ellie, and he's like, well, why? She's like, why did you come in so late? And he's like, well, me and Morgan were playing video games, obviously. And Ellie's she wants to know why Chuck has sunk back into his old ways. At the beginning of the season, he's talking about all these plans and big dreams he has. And then he is now just back at the Buy More, not acting like he's going anywhere, and just absolutely going nowhere with his life. And a lot of people, Ellie brings up Chuck's future a lot, and a lot of people think it's annoying. But it's coming out of a place of love. She loves her brother, and she wants what's best for him. And she doesn't think the Buy More is best for him. Now, we know that he's a spy, and he is saving the world all the time. But Ellie doesn't know that. So she thinks he's literally just sitting there at the Buy More, going nowhere with his life, when really he's just at the Buy More as a cover, and most of the time he's out saving the world on missions and stuff. Now, I can't blame her for thinking that he's not doing anything with his life. It does come off as whiny a little bit, but if you put yourself in her shoes, you'd be wondering the same thing. Like, why is he not doing anything with his life? He was telling us all about these big plans he had. He's going to go backpack through Europe. He wanted to get a better job. He went to Stanford, for God's sakes. But it just doesn't seem like he's doing anything about it. So Ellie goes to if Chuck doesn't want to talk about it, she goes to the one person who she wants to talk about it with, and that's Sarah. And they have a nice chat, and Ellie's just sitting there. It's like, why is he doing this? And she's like, trust me, Chuck is a brilliant, brilliant person, and he really could do anything he wants. He's not sure what to do with himself right now and stuff like that. But she's basically telling Ellie, hey, calm down. Chuck is a brilliant individual. He'll figure things out for himself. Things will work out for him. And then we find out that Chuck was only 12 credits shy of graduating at Stanford. So he was really close. He's close to having a bachelor's degree in computer science. So what else do you need to know? He's tried in college, and he was really close. And with a bachelor's degree like that, he could literally do anything he wanted. Well, not anything, but he could do a lot. And So, I mean, it is upsetting in Ellie's eyes. It's like he's that close to doing whatever he wants, and he doesn't seem to be doing it. Later on, Chuck calls Ellie, talks about some things, and he hangs up on her. And Ellie goes, "Do you think my brother's on drugs?" And Awesome is just like, "That would explain a lot." And that is my line of the episode. That is just perfect. The way he delivered that line was just hilarious. Well, Chuck comes back after saving the day towards the end, and he learns that he got a degree in the mail. And Ellie and Awesome are super happy for him because they didn't know he was taking online courses. He wasn't, but to them, they think he's taking online courses, and then he graduated. So maybe he was doing something with his life. He didn't want to burden them. So that was nice of Sarah to do. Chuck's all like, well, it's a fake degree. No, it's a real degree. Okay. I mean, there we have it, folks. That's Chuck's future. So now we're going to the topic that everyone loves and loves to talk about. Chara. Now, there's probably 3 specific instances of Chara hints in this episode. 1, when Casey is about to shoot down the satellite, Sarah's like, "I'm going to the news station because Chuck told me that they would be there." And he's like, "Well, you're not going to stop them. I mean, you still don't have the code. It doesn't matter if you stop them and put them in jail. You still don't have the code." He's like, he's like, "Who do you trust more? Burnout at the Buy More or me in the Air Force?" She's like, "I trust Chuck." And there you have it, folks. She trusts Chuck a lot. Like, with everything she has, that's how much she trusts Chuck. And we're starting to see some more of how much she really cares for Chuck. Now, another segment is right when Chuck wins. Right when Chuck wins and sends her the code, and she stops it. She goes, "How does it feel to be a hero, Mr. Bartowski?" Now, that may just seem like a regular line, but it's definitely flirting because he has done a lot of things in the past like this. I mean, he stopped a bomb from going off. He's diffused bombs in Joint Chiefs of Staff's meetings. He has flown a helicopter. He's saved the day many a times, is what I'm getting at. So basically, this is her. I think it's a little bit of flirtation. Now, obviously, this one is a little bit bigger than almost all of those because he just prevented World War III. But I felt that there was a little bit of flirting. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. And then finally, there at the end. Ugh. It's a good one. Chuck talks to Sarah out on the balcony about how she got him his degree. And he's like, it's a fake degree, but thanks for getting my sis off my back. And she's like, "No, it's a real degree. You deserved it." She's lobbying, trying to improve Chuck's self-confidence. And she's like, "Well, you see that shooting star out there? That is the satellite bouncing off the atmosphere and burning up. Looks like a shooting star. Make a wish, Chuck." Chuck makes his wish. We all know what that wish was for. He definitely wished for Sarah. Now, I know this for 2 reasons. 1, I know the show, so I know he's wishing for Sarah. 2, that look. That look explains everything you need to know and pretty much gives you 100% evidence as to why I know he wished for Chuck, or why Chuck wished for Sarah. And that look at the end says everything. Chuck is still deeply in love with Sarah. And I mean, like I said, the look it says it all. There's nothing about that look that does not scream, "Hey, I love you." I mean, what's going to happen with it? You'll have to watch and find out. So, there we go, folks. That was Chuck versus Tom Sawyer. I saw a strong filler episode, a very strong filler episode. So, I would like to pose an opinion-based question. What do you think? Do you think Ellie is justified in talking about Chuck's future, or do you think she is unjustified? Is she just whining? Like I said, you can give me your answer to that opinion on Twitter at ChuckRewatch33, capital C and Chuck. And you can also send it to me at the official Intersect Project podcast page on chuckaholics.com or on the Intersect Project podcast page on the official Chuck Wiki. So just put them, give me your opinions, and I read them. I enjoy listening to other people's opinions on them. So thank you for that. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, or like, subscribe, share this podcast, review it. I mean, the more subscribers we have, the more likely people are to stumble upon it. The more reviews we have, the more likely people are to stumble upon the podcast. If the more people we get to stumble on the podcast, the greater the Chuck family grows. The greater the Chuck family grows, the closer we get to our end goals. Everyone's end goals being at least a Chuck movie. So, and then this podcast has a goal of doing a live episode as a panel at Nerd HQ 2015. So, or any of them really. I mean, who knows? But I mean, like I said, this podcast has some goals, but we also have the same goals that other Chuck fans want, and that's Chuck. We want some more Chuck, obviously. We just got to get them viewers up. But while we don't have Chuck now, we can look back and reminisce about Chuck. It's basically what this podcast is doing. So, there you have it, folks. Also, I will probably be taking a week hiatus for Christmas. So, next weekend, do not expect a podcast episode. Expect one the Sunday following. I know, I'm sorry, it's been like episode hiatus, but it's just, everything's happened at once this semester, so I need a Christmas break. So I'm gonna spend some time with family and friends, and we're gonna take a week hiatus, and then we're gonna get back on the Chuck podcast bandwagon, and we're gonna ride that baby for a while. No more hiatuses after this one for a while. So for at least a few months. So once we get past this hiatus, boys and girls, week after week, we're gonna have new Chuck episodes, new Chuck podcasts. Well, folks, there you have it. Signing off the Intersect Project podcast, I'm your host, Paul. Remember, everybody loves Chuck. Some people, they just don't know it yet. Good night, and good day.